from a defabricated garden shed in Rockland County, New York, USA. This is Stand Up with Pete Dominic. On today's episode, a look ahead to an exciting future of rolling blackouts and heat stroke. And now, the podcast host who has the heat beat with his trend-setting Crocs with big hat look, Pete Dominic!
That's right, Pete Co. They call me Beat the Heat Pete, and the ladies love it. So thank you very much. I'm all about style and functionality. Hello, my friends, and welcome to today's episode of Stand Up. Ooh, it's a good conversation because I have two people in it other than me, and really, I don't talk, which makes it that much better. That's right, Wajahat Ali and Nayyera Haq together for the first time ever anywhere, both joining me for a conversation about several different issues that I think you are going to really, really love. And thank you for all of the love. Speaking of, from yesterday's program with Eric Siegel about life and loss and friendship. So much great feedback on that one. If you haven't listened to it, I think you will be very pleasantly surprised. Sometimes you don't, by that I mean, want to hear a conversation about loss, but this was really good, according to so many folks who reached out to both Eric and I. Thank you guys very much for all of that feedback. I don't have a lot for you in the preamble of today's show, just a few clips I want to share with you. Lots going on in the world. Of course, the heat waves in California and the West. You've got hurricane season starting now. You've got political season starting now. And, oh wait, what's this? Material on foreign nations' nuclear capabilities seized at Trump's Mar E Lago, breaking last night at 10:30 p.m. Here is one of the Washington Post reporters who got the scoop, Devlin Barrett, on CNN with Anderson Cooper, and the big news from late last night.
Can you just talk about what you have learned?
Right. So we have learned that when the FBI conducted its search on August 8th, obviously there's been court documents describing a lot of classified material that was taken. We're told that one of the things found in the course of that search was a document that described a foreign government's military defenses, including its nuclear capabilities. And obviously that was a cause for some concern, although there's a lot of material in this tranche of stuff that they searched for and found that is a cause for concern.
And in the article, you detailed the kind of procedures which would normally be put in place to protect such a document.
Right. So we're talking the most serious category of this type of information is what's referred to often as special access programs.
So this is above top secret clearances.
It's sort of a very tight circle within the larger circle of top secret, if that makes sense. It's a type of top secret information that in what's been described to us is some of the SAP material that was seized was so close hold that only the president, some cabinet secretaries, and near cabinet-like officials were authorized to share or allow other people in the government to see that kind of information. So extremely close hold, extremely tightly held. And there was an allusion to this in one of the court filings. If you remember, one of the filings said that even the investigators who recovered the material, some of them weren't, even though they were counterintelligence agents, some of them weren't authorized to review some of the documents when they first found them.
So some of the FBI agents who were on the scene in Mar E Lago, they didn't even have the kind of clearance that would allow them to look at these documents.
Correct. And not just the agents. Some of the federal prosecutors involved in this matter also didn't automatically have a clearance to look at some of this material. That's how close hold it was.
And you talk about close hold, who would be able to see it and who would grant that authorization, whether it's either the president or a cabinet level or near cabinet level official. These are also documents that how they are stored, obviously, a lot of thought is put into that.
Right. You're talking about documents that should be stored in a SCIF. It's a government acronym for a very secure room, and should have someone who's designated, a government official designated, to keep very close tabs on those kinds of documents. That's another cause for concern because obviously when they conducted this search, they looked in a storage room, they looked in the former president's office, and those aren't nearly the kinds of places with the kinds of security for documents like that.
Wow, what a bombshell coming late last night. Not really a lot of details. The Washington Post article about it is brief, and as you can hear, there's not a lot to learn other than Trump had nuclear secrets just lying around in his house. Turns out the FBI wasn't just looking for nuclear secrets in Trump's home. They found them. You know, probably easily accessible to anybody, including the help at Mar E Lago. Excuse me, can you please, hi, what's your name? Hi, it doesn't matter. Can you just give me a Diet Coke and hand me that folder that says nuclear secrets on it? Don't look at it. All right, here's some hot takes from social media late last night. Chapman tweeted, today we learned Dr. Oz thinks having kids with your own cousin isn't a big deal. We also found out Trump kept nuclear secrets at his hotel, and no Republican has said a thing about either. The party of family values and law and order. In a related tweet, Congressman Bill Pascrell Jr. writes, today we learned Donald Trump had nuclear secrets at Mar E Lago. Will a single prominent Republican condemn him? That's a rhetorical question. Chris Hahn says, how can you be sure there were nuclear secrets at Mar E Lago? Trump said there weren't nuclear secrets at Mar E Lago. That's how you can be sure. Wajahat Ali tweets, and he joins me today, but after this news broke. But he said, the Department of Justice is probably sitting on this explosive news of nuclear secrets document and knew that this corrupt MAGA judge would give Trump his special master and help with his shameless delay tactics. Next day, boom, this bombshell. Smart. Comedian Jay Black tweets, if the confirmation that Trump had nuclear secrets mixed with his old copies of Swank doesn't scare you like the first time you saw the gross pulsing Spider Queen at the end of the original Contra, go get an MRI. You've had a stroke. Trump is now an international security threat, reads another tweet. Depending on whose secrets he was hoarding and what he was doing them, it could be a diplomatic relations nightmare. At Midas Touch tweets, Judge Cannon basically said that Trump's reputation takes precedent over the safety of the entire world. The MAGA cult would rather see nuclear destruction on a global scale than allow their dear leaders' feelings to be hurt. Andrew Wortman tweets, your reminder that Republicans had the chance to remove Trump from office twice before he made off with the nuclear secrets of foreign governments, and they refused. All right, one more. Comedian Noel Kasler tweets, there's no way in hell that Trump had a document describing another nation's defenses and nuclear capabilities without Jared and Ivanka seeing it too and leveraging the info. Just saying. Wait until their business partners find out how much Trumps were double dipping. All right, there you go. Just a few of the tweets, reaction to this news breaking late last night. I'm up early doing the show this morning. I got up at 4 a.m. to get this baby up and out for you, as opposed to staying up real late last night. And I'm glad I did, because this news broke very late last night. Man, this shit is crazy. Just to think about the fact that this leaked to the Washington Post strategically after this decision was made, it's kind of scary, because that is a very risky thing to do if the Department of Justice did, and they must have. I mean, how else did it get out? Because they have to be able to continue their investigation, because it's of great importance for not only the nation's security, but the world's, it might seem. What if we learned the Israelis had nukes? What if that's the secret? I think we already knew. But before this major breaking news, there was still the ongoing investigation, and the unqualified, barely confirmed Trump judge appointment of the dungeon master. Well, this clip went viral last night because Trump's former hand-picked Attorney General, Bill Maher, who is the most corrupt attorney general ever, basically referred to as Trump's fixer. He was on Fox News yet again criticizing Donald Trump, and specifically the special master's decision, suggesting that his old firm, the Department of Justice, should appeal it. Listen to Flintstone Toad.
Opinion, I think, was wrong, and I think the government should appeal it. It's deeply flawed in a number of ways. I don't think the appointment of a special master is going to hold up, but even if it does, I don't see it fundamentally changing the trajectory. In other words, I don't think it changes the ball game so much as maybe we'll have a rain delay for a couple of innings. But I think that the fundamental dynamics of the case are set, which is the government has very strong evidence of what it really needs to determine whether charges are appropriate, which is government documents were taken, classified information was taken and not handled appropriately, and they are looking into, and there's some evidence to suggest that they were deceived. And none of that really relates to the content of documents. It relates to the fact that there were documents there. And the fact that they were classified and the fact that they were subpoenaed and never delivered, but they don't have to show the content, the specific advice given in a memo, for example, in order to prevail in this case. So I think it's not really going to change the decision.
So you think the special master will be overturned on appeal by the DOJ?
I think if DOJ appeals eventually, it'll be overturned.
How long will that take?
Well, that's why it could be delayed. I hope they expedite it, but it could take several months to get that straightened out.
Oh, that must have been so hard for Fox News' Martha McCallum to hear that, because she is such a Trumper and she does not get nearly enough criticism, in my opinion. You hear so much more about Laura Ingraham and Hannity and, of course, Tucker Carlson and the rest, the morning circus crew on Fox and Friends. But Martha McCallum, oof. Just look at her record. Anyway, she went on to ask him, this is just a great case in point. She went on to ask him this question.
So he came after you, of course, for saying what you said the other day. They were jerking around, called you a rhino. That. Do you care about any of that?
No, I mean, I heard that. I've heard that a lot.
You got used to it.
But, you have to remember, a rhino for him is anyone who disagrees with him that the election was stolen. Right, that's a rhino. Now, as someone who handed out Barry Goldwater literature when I was 14 years old on the Upper West Side, it's a little silly.
You don't think your Republican credentials are in question? Thank you, sir. Always good to see
you. Yeah. Sorry about that. Wasn't that probably the noises that you were making as you were listening to that as well? And speaking of a genuine laugh, let's go to Stephen Colbert, who was back last night after a break, along with the rest of the late night comedians. And here is a joke he had to say about Joe Biden handling a heckler at his rally the other day.
Yesterday, Biden went to Wisconsin to deliver his anti-MAGA warning, and he noticed a heckler in the audience.
By the way, all right, God love you. Let him go. Let him go. No, don't let him go. Look, everybody's entitled to be an idiot. No, everybody's entitled. Okay?
Come on. No. Let him go. Everyone's entitled to be an idiot. A little ding-dong dim dingler. Regular chicken spine ginger snap. Real no taffy galoot. Excuse my French. And every idiot is entitled to meet me behind the bleachers after this speech so I can introduce them to my two friends. No joke. And I mean it, folks. Now... No. I don't know what that means. In his speech, Biden tried out some new names for these dangerous anti-democratic forces.
MAGA Republicans, the extreme right, the Trumpies.
By which he means the former president's enablers, not to be confused with the award show of the same name.
And the Trumpy goes to... Very funny. Oh, the best writers over there at The Late Show on CBS. All right, just a quick recap of the big stories from yesterday, or one big story from yesterday, really. Now it's time to get to my very special guest. I thought it would be a great idea to bring on Nayyera Haq and Wajahat Ali together. And no, not just because they're both first-generation Americans from Pakistani families. No, that's not why. It's because they both are so brilliant and funny, and I love them. And I just thought it would be great to have the three of us in conversation. What I didn't know is that I wouldn't really be part of the conversation because they were talking to each other so much. And you know what? That's my little secret. Just invite other people on to talk, and then I'll sell that conversation to you. I think I'm a genius for this. Also, real quick, if you want to be a part of the Stand Up with Pete Dominic Street Team, which is basically made up of listeners and subscribers who want to help produce and promote the show, then send an email to standupwithpete@gmail.com, especially if you want to be a part of our video initiative here, where I've been working with listeners Dr. Barry Hummel and Maddie Carlson on pulling your favorite video clips from the interviews you like the most. So after I get done with a guest interview, I will post it, and you can have special access. Watch it, find a part that you like, let us know where it is, clip it yourself, share it yourself, or give it to us, and we will post it. If you want to watch the video interviews of my guests and then let us know the parts you like the most, email me, standupwithpete@gmail.com, and just put Street Team in the subject, and then we will get you on board and access, hopefully, if you're vetted and we find out that you don't have any nuclear secrets or anything. So let us know about that. Looking forward to working with you to help promote the show using video. How about that for an idea? I'm just a lonely guy in the shed, and I can use all the help I can get from this amazing community. All right, well, you know both Nayyera Haq and Wajahat Ali, I'm sure. I'm not going to give you their whole introductions. All of it is in the show notes. They've been on many times before. I'm so excited to get them on together. I hope to do this again with them and other great guests more and more. And we start the video. Nayyera and I were hanging out virtually for about 5 minutes, and then I start right when Waj pops in. And then it really is so great because you just don't hear from me for a while. It's so and they just keep talking, and I loved every second of it. I hope you do too. Let's do it.
I see you found a best new Pakistani friend and have abandoned me.
Yes.
Well, he was just like, it was actually really cute how he did. He's like, so I don't know if you know him. His name's Wajahat Ali. And I'm like, and I really wanted to be like, so you're asking me because I'm Pakistani? Is that the? And I'm like, of course I know him.
But what he really wanted to ask was, I know all Pakistanis know each other, but, and he wanted like the nice diplomatic way of saying that.
But you never know. And actually, you're right. We kind of do.
We're actually related. She's my first cousin. We were supposed to get married, but I said, I'm not down with the incest. And Nayyera said, I want to branch out.
I'm actually related to, like for real, who I am actually related to? Siraj Hashmi.
Of course you are.
My Chacha's wife. It's that family.
And it's a lovely family, and the brother and sister are lovely. Siraj, unfortunately, has chosen to be a troll. And what are you going to do?
But he knows he's a troll. That's the interesting thing. It's not an accidental thing. He knows that's what he's doing.
You know, his spouse is Emily Newman, who's part of the Kraken's council.
She was Stephen Miller's person.
Yep. There you go.
And then this guy is of Pakistani American descent. His parents actively practicing Islam. And he got married to Stephen Miller's point person, and they got married at the Trump Hotel. Like, how do you make your parents walk into that?
It's tough. It's a tough situation. Nice guy on the DL, but you voluntarily chose to be married to literally, and I use the word literally the way it's meant to be used, with the news that we found out today, Sidney Powell and the extent of their coup attempt, like active traitors to America. So this is where, and also did I just tell you I was on Dr. Phil? I did my first Dr. Phil appearance.
I saw that.
And the two other people of color that they brought on were these two black guys who were more to the right of Tucker Carlson and argued for eugenics policies.
So does Clarence Thomas.
Yeah.
Clarence Thomas's whole idea is that black people need to rise above. And if you don't, then you didn't make the cut, and that's your fault.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. And I had to come in and be like, let's, before we get to eugenics and Hunger Games, let's just invest in paid parental leave. And Dr. Phil's like, Warble out here has a great idea about paid parental. He's like, to his credit, I went because no one was pushing back because the other guests were very quiet, even though you could tell they showed reactions of the audience. Everyone was horrified because these guys were further to the right of Stephen Miller. And then I'm like, dude, of all the people of color, you got two black guys who both espouse the same horrible points of view. Then I had to come back.
Why are you picking these guys? What are you doing?
Well, hold on. I think the better question might be, is there a show that Waj says no to? Here's my impression of Waj's publicist. Hey, Waj, I got a call. They want you to go. Yes. It's the Grand Wizard Hour, Waj. That's fine. I'll argue with him.
Yeah, the funny thing is,
Waj will actually argue. I have to say no because I feel like in those moments I would try to be nice. And there's some moments where you can't be nice.
I was nice. Dude, I was measured. I pushed back. I was the only guest that got applause. I got humor. They referred back to my points. And then Dr. Phil, Dr. Phil, his show, then spent time echoing my talking points. But the fact that it got derailed was just like, oh my God, this is what happens with both sides. And the fact that those two black people mouthing the nativist talking points. Oh, and it's just like sensationalism television. And then, but I did say though, for my immigrant parents and family, the fact that I got on Dr. Phil, it's like I made it. Like my family is like, you made it on Dr. Phil. You've made it in America. You can just die now.
This episode's clearly never going to air. But what'd you ask him, Nayyera?
What was the topic they brought you on to talk about?
It was supposed to be about like the population crisis, right? Like all these people are freaking out that not enough people have babies and kids, and then it devolved into something else.
Of course it did.
Yeah, I did my TED talk on it.
The white anxiety, right, about white replacement theory.
Well, you know what they had is one of the guests, Nayyera, one of the guests who was this black pastor. I swear to God, wait until you watch the show, if the show gets aired now. Said we need more white babies because white people as a race are innovative and do more to help society. And Dr. Phil was like, "Oh, hold on, just wait. That's a little too much for me now. Come on now."
Wow.
I mean, the internalized things, the thing.
Here's what I take from that. There's a booker on that show where there was a conversation like, you've got to find a black pastor who will say crazy shit that is white supremacist in nature.
That makes Dr. Phil look good.
Yeah.
Right? Because this is Dr. Phil who needs to look good these days.
Right. Well, listen, I'm looking forward to that episode, and I'm really looking forward to this episode. I've already started recording.
Oh, there you go.
Obviously.
Hello, everybody.
Waj knows. And I do want to say I'm very excited to have Nayyera joining Waj and I. Waj has become such a regular on the show, Nayyera, that talented listeners wrote a theme song. And I want to play the 40 seconds for you in hopes that you too will want one. Here it is from Gareth Saber. This is the Wajahat Ali theme song intro jingle.
He's Wajahat Ali, got a book that comes out the 25th of January. Go back to where you came from, do you mean where he got his name from? Lego abilities amaze until his wife stops his spending spree. He'll dismantle your political stance on a Zoom call in his jacket, shirt and tie and his underpants. His powers of thoughtful discussion bring nuanced perspective that can't help but draw us in. It's Wednesday, I'm the Wajahat Ali.
Wow.
That was awesome.
I was trying to get a feel for whether it was like a 50s jingle or kind of like more of like an 80s thing.
But either way, you were dancing throughout, so it was very impressive. The people who are listening, you should have seen Nayyera's dance routine too. Interpretive dance was on point.
There's like I tried to throw a Vogue in there. I'm like, it's not feeling right.
What do you? Are you?
That's pretty awesome.
Are you interested? Would you love to have a jingle like that in your life? Yeah.
Who wouldn't fucking love to have a jingle?
I mean,
like, who doesn't want entry music?
You're both big media people. You're both big gets for me, and I'm very happy to have you both here. And let's just, the elephant in the room is, yes, you're both Pakistani American. How do you identify? I don't know how you identify, but you started already talking about it. You said words that I don't know. I think Jaja, which I assume is grandma or grandfather. I don't know. But just...
Oh, Chacha. That's what he thought.
Chacha.
I was like, who said Jaja? I'm like, oh, poor Pete. Oh, simple white Pete.
Yes.
He made Chacha into Jaja.
He tried.
A for effort.
For trying.
I also wanted, at one point I wondered if having you guys on together, how that would go. And I recorded how it went.
It breaks all the rules of how you're supposed to do TV booking, because you cannot have two people of the same minority on at the same time. Like you're not allowed to do that.
I didn't realize that. I guess, you know what? Who wants to leave? And I'll get a white.
I mean, this is the problem, is that you looked at us as human beings, and that was mistake number one.
Well, the question was, what will it be like to have you guys on together? And I was recording earlier when I didn't talk for like 5 minutes, and I was like, am I even here? Because you guys were getting on so well. And I want to jump right into a question that both of you obviously care about, is that you both, your families come from Pakistan, and Pakistan right now is, a third of it is underwater. Sorry to get so serious quickly, but I know you both want to talk about this. I haven't talked about it at all. The most historic flooding the country has ever seen. And obviously, I want to ask you both about it, and if you have family there and what you think about it. But I obviously want to ask you about the media coverage of it. Nayyera, you first. How much are you thinking about it? Do you know folks there? And what do you think about the media coverage of it?
So it's not just where my parents grew up and where my family lives. I have extended family there. It is also the 5th largest country in the world, a population the size of the United States. It has the largest glaciers outside of the Arctic, and those glaciers melting, climate change, all of that happening at the same time as we have seen Pakistan hit on the other end of the extreme, the wet bulb temperature, which is a temperature that is so hot that the body cannot sweat enough to cool itself off. So you have these extremes of climate change happening in this massive country where our families just happen to come from. And it's barely a blip on American news, right? Because we are deep in political season, arguing about whether or not treason is actually happening as we watch it happen in front of us. And, you know, BBC and some other international networks are covering it. But for those who would like to help, a third of the country is underwater. I recommend the Eidi Foundation. They are based in the south of Pakistan. They do a lot of just local direct rescue and relief. They're not about, let's rebuild an economy according to X, Y, and Z metrics, which is a lot of what the international organizations do. They're like, how do we get people fed? How do we rescue people from danger? And so it's the most direct way to help. It's also inexpensive right now. The US to dollar to Pakistani rupee exchange rate is 1 to 200, right? So like what you can do with $5 is immense right now. Like your one latte can literally save a life in Pakistan. So please help Eidi Foundation. Thank you for allowing me this moment, and I will kick it back to Wajahat for his perspective.
Well, I think Waj wants to plug his Venmo. Is that right, Waj?
Yeah. I'm personally going to go to Pakistan and save people, but first I'm going to get paid and buy all the lattes. You know, what Nayyera said is the point I want to drive home to the listeners, and especially some folks are like, listen, man, I'm overwhelmed. There's multiple crises. Why should I care about these darkies in Pakistan, right? Like, you know, what do I care? And to connect the dots, in addition to what Nayyera is saying is like, this is a country of over 200 million people where a third of the population, 33 million people are displaced, and a third of that country is flooded right now. And even my family in Karachi right now, which isn't as badly affected, they're like, due to the poor infrastructure, due to the corruption, you know, we have to figure out how to like just get rid of all this water. Like, and just imagine like just being flooded. What happens to a society? What happens to a country? The reason why you should care is Pakistan is only responsible for about 2% of the world's output when it comes to climate change, right? The Horn of Africa, same, like maybe 1 to 2%. And yet the victims of climate change are countries like Pakistan, the Horn of Africa, the shithole countries, right? The victims of the United States and China in particular being irresponsible with their greenhouse gas emissions is everyone. If you look at Western Europe in the summer, Western Europe compared to the United States and China comparatively did its job. It was a good faith actor. Like it's been on this. And yet that did not stop climate change and the bad wind that Herschel Walker talks about. He talked about the bad wind. I'm not even making this up. Yeah. From affecting the infrastructure in Spain and in Europe, where you literally saw like friggin' Spain on fire. You saw like the terminal melt, right? Because Europe is not has not been created for this type of weather. The infrastructure is not meant for this type of climate. And as Nayyera is doing, some of the hottest temperatures on Earth that have been recorded have so far been recorded in certain regions of Pakistan, where it's 125 to 135 degrees. The human body has not evolved to adapt to this weather. Yeah. So people are dying. They're like, what do you want us to do, man? We don't have air conditioning. We're dying. So a lot of people are like, I don't care. Well, it's like fascism. Climate change like fascism. If you ignore it, it creeps up on you real quick. And if you say, oh, I shouldn't care about what's happening to my neighbor, you realize, oh, that's now happening next door. And if you allow yourself to be ignorant about it, this affects you and is affecting Americans right now as we speak in Mississippi, in California, the hurricanes. We thought we had until 2070 or 2060 to stave off climate change. Huge report came out right now that this glacier in Antarctica is barely hanging on by its fingernails. This came out yesterday, that this glacier that everyone's like worried about, that we thought we had 30, 40 years to save it, it's barely hanging on by its fingernails. So once that glacier goes, what's going to happen? These coastal cities in America are going to go underwater. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the refugees and immigrants won't be brown and black people. They're going to be a bunch of white folks in California and DC and Miami and New York.
Alaska, there's a reason why the Democrat won, saying that she was pro-fish, because fish, salmon, the industry is disappearing in Alaska because the waters are too hot. Like, this is going to be a very American refugee problem. And so if you help elsewhere, you also learn the lessons and how to solve the problems here at home.
And I hate saying that, like, just real quick before the fact that I had to sell this, basically because I realize how people are and I realize how Americans are. I had to sell helping people through a selfish interest. Like, do you want to save yourself? Maybe you can help Pakistanis.
I mean, that's kind of all of our experience with COVID, right? Like, that's what we have to do.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, it's not enough to care about, just be altruistic and care about people you don't know. There's also data on people donating more likely to causes that are closer to their home or more ethnically similar. You see Christians in trouble, you donate to Christians.
Ukraine.
Oh, that's a perfect example. Yes, I was actually thinking of how I got my show originally at SiriusXM. I did a demo, and it was about I believe the earthquakes in Pakistan that killed like hundreds of thousands of people. And I talked about people don't care about that in America. I don't know. Anyway, I learned a lot from that. And that's true, right? Like data would say that we don't care as much about people who are distant.
I will say this. We American, regular old, right? We're regular people. Americans actually really do care and want to help if we're informed. So who's informing us? Who's making the filter of what we get and what information we receive? And we figured out ways to, get information from overseas, be more in direct contact with people, especially with activists overseas. But that has a large part to do with it, because I do think that there is an amazing spirit of generosity in the American people when they actually know what's happening.
Well, you look at in America, though, within America, Hurricane Katrina and Watt just mentioned Jackson, Mississippi now, which are very different issues, of course. But then you look at hurricanes that affect the white areas or tornadoes or other natural disasters and the attention that they get. And I think there's a lot to read into that. And I think it's important.
Well, people are forgetting the pandemic, the ongoing pandemic that has killed 6 million people. 1 million Americans, that's a low number. All the data has shown that it has flattened people, but it has flattened us unequally. The folks that are most affected by it are black and brown folks, the workers. They don't have the resources. And we're seeing the impact of environmental racism and white supremacy. So specifically when it comes to, they don't look like us, we don't care about them. In America, just look at the pandemic. You don't even have to go that far back. This ongoing pandemic, the data shows that a majority, not all, but a slight majority of white Americans care less when they realize the pandemic is affecting the blacks and browns. They go, it is not affecting me. So we don't even have to go to Pakistan. We don't even have to go to the Horn of Africa. We don't have to go to Western Europe. Just look at America. Look at our backyard. When it's poor whites and especially poor black folks and poor brown folks with the pandemic, and also now with Jackson, Mississippi, is due to years of neglect, not investing in these communities, not building up the infrastructure, because we're like, the blacks, the browns, they're savages. They'll figure it out. They'll learn to swim.
Well, I think that was racist. But I wanted to ask you both about that. You both have
about swimming? Terrible
swimmer. Brown people, Pakistanis, third generation Pakistani kids like us, children of immigrants are terrible swimmers because their parents came to this country and they said, why the hell do we want to swim?
Would you bathe with other people that you don't know? What is up with that?
Or camping. Why do we want to go shit in the woods? We used to shit in the hole in Pakistan. We want to shit in like friggin' toilets.
What other Pakistani cultural issues have you been aghast?
Baggage? Trauma that we're still working through?
Well, I mean, just like that. Well, there's that, but that's first generation anything from any country. It's a fascinating topic. I wanted to ask you about, you both have little kids, and I wonder what you think about raising your kids here in the future of America. Waj.
Well, you know what? So Nayyera is basically like our Jackie Robinson. Because what she decided to do, she decided to marry a black. So she married a black man. And she had black and brown kids. Yeah. And I'm being facetious, of course. Hopefully people can sense.
No, but literally the translation in foreign languages very often comes down to a black. Or the blacks.
So she's like, Nayyera, she's so pretty.
Don't say black people, they say the blacks. I'm like, you've told me a lot about yourself. Got it. Okay.
So like Nayyera's like this trailblazer because she's the daughter of Pakistani immigrants, educated. She made it, went to the White House. She's pretty. She's on TV. She could have gone anybody. But she married a black. What will the parents think? And so it's very important. And it's one of those things where I'm sure she didn't want to do that. She's like, I'm going to be a trailblazer. I'm going to be Blade, the daywalker. She like fell in love with the man, but her having a black husband and a happy, successful marriage and these biracial kids is a test for not just America, but also for our communities that still suffer from internalized racism and whiteness. So with that, Nayyera, how does it feel to be Blade?
It's a lot. It's a lot, right? And I gave birth to my second child in the pandemic. So that was like a whole nother thing. I'm just glad that I had the first birthing experience in something considered more normal where you could actually be around other human beings. But yeah, I love when I tell Black people that I have a Black family, and they're like, "Oh, baby, how'd that go down?" And you tell white people that I grew up with, like New York liberals, for example, like, "Oh, that's wonderful, that's great," and I'm like, y'all don't know, do you? Because it is generally understood that Asians can be hella racist. Like, people know this, right? But we don't talk about it because, yes, Asian Americans have harassment and challenges and issues as a community writ large. But the idea of Black and brown solidarity is still a very new and tenuous thing. And all you have to do is, spend time in a high school in California, and you'll see some of the tensions that are simmering between Latinos and African Americans. In New York, it used to be the Korean grocers and Black communities. So all of that is part of that mixing up of people and confusion that comes out of what we call white supremacy, which is when you show up in a country as an immigrant and you look around, you're like, oh, who has stuff and who doesn't? Okay, got it. I'm going to try to be like these people over here because they got all the stuff and power. Right. And that idea is called proximity to whiteness. And somebody of my skin tone can do some of that. Somebody of my husband's skin tone, we still haven't figured out which Crayola crayon he is, but he's somewhere in the range of mahogany. Like, he can't do that. There's no proximity to whiteness for him. He is Black. I tried to tell my kid this. So he's in kindergarten now. And I tried to tell him not about proximity to whiteness or colonialism. I tried to tell him about that he should know that sometimes if he hears the word Black people, that people mean daddy and him and grandma. And I included him in this. And he goes, but we're brown. I'm like, yes, I understand. But skin color is not actually a black crayon, but I just want, it's very silly. I was like, I agree with you. It's very silly. I just want you to understand what people are talking about. And if you don't like it or you hear something you don't like, make sure to tell me. And that was it. Like, that was our race discussion for kindergarten. I'm like, I don't know what else I'm supposed to do.
I don't want to tell you how to parent your biracial. But I feel like you should have told him that there's more than him, grandma, and daddy, Black people. I feel like just that you left out all of the rest of the Black people, and he's going to think there's only the three until he really gets out there. And because
I want him to know that when he sees Black Lives Matter signs, they're only talking about him and his dad.
Waj, you pick that thread up. I have nothing else to offer this. I'm not even sure why I'm here at this point. I guess my question would be a selfish one. What happens when one of you brings home a white?
Oh, yeah. So I was joking. And so I get away with a lot. My wife says, you say more inappropriate things than appropriate things and you get away with it. How? And I'm like, I don't know. And I was at a social.
Sexism.
Yeah. Oh, also sexism. I was trying to think I was charming and funny, but apparently I have a penis. That's what did it. So my wife's like,
quite sure about that, are we?
Yeah. My wife is like,
there's some confusion in my house. My son keeps telling his sister she has a penis.
Oh,
you know what? In this day and age, it's to be determined. We'll see.
But then when she tells her, she's like, I have an ouchie on my penis. I go, it's not a penis. You have a vagina. It's an ouchie on your vagina. Babagina? My babagina? That's where we're at. Please continue.
No, it's fine. My wife, we talked about that on the show before, went all in as a doctor and decided to teach our kids the names of genitals. So
yes, proper words.
Yeah, so it's like my son's like, my penis itches. I'm like, just don't say that out loud, please. Just just be subtle about it. But it's we were talking about penises, kids, Urdu, Pakistan, the flood. You asked me a question. Oh yeah, the whites. So I was telling my wife. So my wife said this. She goes, "Listen, we're going to an adult's house, and there's an actual adult, and she's mature, unlike us. For the love of God, just be on your best behavior. Just say everything opposite about what you usually say, right? And so the reason why this happened is because I was at another event, like a lot of South Asians, and I openly said, listen, if one of us brought a white to the community dinner or like as a girlfriend, and she was like a 7 white just tramples over a 10 brown. And like the brown women are like, I'm offended. No way. Our women are beautiful. I'm like, of course your women are beautiful. I'm just saying due to whiteness.
That wasn't your point.
Yeah. Like if I bring in a 7, like an average white, a pretty good white, like you kind of turn your head type of white. You don't whistle white, but it kind of like I'd swipe right on that white, you know? What are those whites? Like a 7.2. That 7.2 white, if I brought her to a Desi party, other Desi men would literally like friggin' roundhouse kick their wife to get to that 7.2 point white. And then meanwhile, like the 10 Desi women are like, what about us have chopped liver? We're like, I don't care about you. You're dead to me. I will kill you for the 7.2 white. So that's why all the whites who say, you want to replace us, I always joke. I'm like, we want to be you. We love you. Some of us think we're white. We've always wanted to rush towards whiteness. What are you talking about? And that's internalized white supremacy.
I think ranking people's looks by a number is really offensive and sexist. But
I appreciate you did that for the record.
As long as we're doing it about men, A, and B, let's be honest, we're pretty much always doing that about ourselves, no matter the room we're in. I don't know, maybe I'm just that cocky or arrogant or insecure, but sometimes I'll walk in a room and I'll be like, in this room, I am the best. Like, as a matter of fact, I'll say this, as a 46-year-old dad, I'm often in better shape than the other men who don't do stuff. Or
you get dad bod credit. No matter what you guys do, you get dad bod credit. Yeah. Nobody fucking wants mom bod.
Yeah, no one.
Moms don't even want mom bod. Do you think anyone's walking out there and be like, oh, yeah, I want to tap that shit?
Look at those love. Pete and I, for one, actually have spent many episodes talking about our unhealthy appreciation for mom bods. And that's our fetish. So you've walked into a very interesting conversation there.
Well, it's a wonderful thing because it's kind of what I've said is it's like I'm generally attracted to people that are like my wife or my wife's age-ish. I don't know, I'm not unattracted to people older or younger. I don't know, there's something about appreciating someone around in your age. I don't know, we get old, we want the same references.
That's healthy and mature.
Yeah, I'm with the Leonardo DiCaprio thing. After 25, they age out. And my wife gives me healthcare, so I'm stuck with her. But I, like you, have actually always been attracted to older women. My wife is older than me. And Sarah was talking about, actually yesterday, Sarah had this conversation about the double standards that exist always when it comes to sexism and beauty. And many mothers come up to her and like, Sarah, how are you able to like maintain your body? You have 3 kids. And Sarah came up to me and says, how do I say it in a tactful way? Because I don't want to offend these women. Because with me, it's just due to genetics, right? My kids, we've talked about this before. I look at a pizza, I gain like 400 pounds. My wife eats shit, loses 12 pounds. My kids are always the same. It's just genetics. And I said, listen, if you honestly say it's genetics and, this is just how the kids are, I think it'll be better for women because they don't feel like, oh, they're failures, they're doing something wrong. But even when it comes to the equity that men get, we can like look like toads, but like, we can look like doorknobs. But if we're wealthy, and if some of us work out like Pete, you could be like 52 years old and society is like, you could date that 26-year-old. But if like a woman looks like, I don't know, if she's 45 and like, literally like you hear this, oh my God, did you see her? She looks like she's 42 years old. I'm like, but she's 45. Isn't that a compliment? But look at her. She's aging. But like, don't we all age? She should just kill herself.
It's crazy. Well,
the idea like you look great for 60. What is the woman just look great? Like Angela Bassett looks amazing. Period. Full stop. Well, we have to pretend she looks like she's 30. Like, why can't that? It's a very. I don't know.
I'd like to hear.
Let's not even start to unpack that because we're just going to spend the whole time.
Well, yeah, I have to let you guys both go already, and I want to ask one question about politics at least. Well, I mean, I don't know what time you guys got to go, but I'll keep talking. But I think you have children obligations.
Well, guys, before you ask about politics, can I give a shout out to the women of color and praise the white women also? So this is how it goes in people of color circles. Women and men, they realize this. They just say, okay, we realize that you love the whites and Baywatch and Pamela Anderson and her blonde hair and her blue eyes, and she's the Horain and the unicorn, and you brown boys are going to lose your mind. But guess what? Brown doesn't crack. So we'll let you get whitey until the age of 37 or 38.
Yeah.
But then you're going to come back to us blacks and browns and Asians. We get the long-term win.
Thank you for clearing that up, Waj.
Yeah, I had to.
No, it's a politically correct point to make.
Real talk.
No, I appreciate it, as always, my friend. And, okay, so this is what I want to ask you. I'm trying to think, there's just so many things. Nayyera wrote a great piece over MSNBC about President Biden's speech tonight. There's been a lot said about that, but we're here with like 60 days left. And I wanted to just get your take on, because Waj, I know you were tweeting like mad about Dark Brandon. And I just was thinking about this today. And I was like, our side, if you will, I don't know, Earth One, we have a hard time because we come up with thoughtful words and ideas and then they get stolen and destroyed, like something like woke, like black folks come up with woke and now it's bad, it's pejorative. This Let's Go Brandon thing has been really effective for them. And I think it's kind of funny if I could take away all the passion and hatred for the idea. But it has been retaken by it being called Dark Brandon at the best time in the home stretch here, or when the political season really starts. What does it mean, this Dark Brandon? And furthermore, and more importantly, what do you guys think about Democrats' hopes and where Joe Biden's at? Nayyera, you go first, because Waj has had a lot to say about this.
Oh, I think people need to get off Twitter. Stay off the internet. Just get off. I'm actually actively avoiding Facebook this political season because I'm like, why? Like, it's just going to make me angry. And the people on these internet spaces already know what they're thinking. The space to go out in these 60 days is actually talk to people who don't know if they're going to vote yet. Right? Like, that's the actual activism that needs to happen. But that's the old political hack in me talking. I think, listen, I love social media memes. I think they're hilarious. I deeply appreciate that the president full-throated acknowledged that there are some people who are extremists in this country. They're called MAGA Republicans, and they're not going to be along for this thing called democracy that we've known. They have their own version of it in which it's freedom for me and not for thee. And we should just all recognize it and acknowledge it and talk about it. And oh my God, does a hit dog holler? Because after that speech, all of these people come up like, oh my God, that's so divisive. I'm like, y'all sitting here telling him to F off, and he can't even say your name, like use your title and explain what you believe in very frank terms that actually every single one of those things is something that you guys actively say. But if he says it, then you all lose your mind. And so it tells you a lot about where we are as a country. Let's just accept it, figure out how to move forward. And you have to move forward, I think, with not being able to bring everybody along. And that's okay.
Well, a lot of people are coming along, Waj. I just saw a stat that like 20% of independent women are now moving to Democrats. And like the issue of abortion seems to have really woken up a lot of people, maybe more than some of us who were predicting it would, said it would even. And I guess I probably should ask you that one, Nayyera. You pick up that, just the abortion issue, and then Waj on everything else.
As a man, I speak on behalf of all women and say,
it's what a medical abortion is very different than what the pro-life stance is about what an abortion is, right? And so women are keenly and deeply aware of what the risks we face when we have children, even throughout our fertility periods, and just literally what it means to be a woman in the healthcare system. So the idea that all of those options have been reversed and stripped back to what healthcare was like for maternity and childbearing back to the 1920s, when literally we didn't have penicillin back then. Like, that was a big deal that we got penicillin and antibiotics. Like, that's what they're trying to do to women's healthcare. Yeah, women are upset about that. We'd been like, okay, you guys don't need to know all this stuff. And apparently guys do need to know all this stuff. So there's a lot of stuff that y'all are going to learn in the next couple of months about women's reproductive healthcare.
Well said. Dark Brandon is on a streak, Waj, and you were talking a lot about that on social media. What do you think as we are looking 60 days ahead?
Yeah, so my takeaway on that, well, first let me say, if there's new listeners, you should be familiar with my sense of humor. But for those who are not, I think the comments that we were making were tongue-in-cheek and obviously are talking about the dangers of white supremacy and the inequities and double standards that exist. So for those who do not understand my sense of humor, that's where it was coming from. It should be obvious, but just in case. What I want to talk about with Dark Brandon is the following. It's an example of Democrats, for once, actually owning and flipping a narrative. We saw MAGA do with deplorable, and when Dark Brandon very accurately described them as semi-fascism and described them as a threat to Constitution, he gave them an opening. He gave them an out. He said, listen, not all of you Republicans, only the MAGA Republicans. You know what they did? No, you're talking about all of us. All of us are semi-fascist. All of us are deplorable. You're like, no, bro. We're giving you an opening, an out to throw Marjorie Taylor Greene under the bus, to throw the Oath Keepers under the bus. And they didn't because, as we all know, that's the mainstream Republican Party, a threat to democracy, a counter-majoritarian force. Now, the reason why Dark Brandon has taken off is because Dark Brandon, the meme, and now Dark Brandon or Joe Biden in the past 3 months is channeling and revealing the passion and rage of the majority. When they took away abortion rights, do you remember what Democrats did? I was on your show, Pete. Well, I guess you just got to vote. I guess
vote harder than you ever have before.
Yeah, vote harder. Vote hard too. Vote harder. Or here's an email, and people are like, "We want you to match our passion. Give us solutions. Damn it! Show anger at least. If we lose, at least we go out swinging." And then you saw people like Fetterman, Mallory McMurrow. You saw folks like AOC, Elizabeth Warren, and others vocalize not just the passion, the anger, but also provide solutions. And voila, what happened? As we predicted on your show, women are not going to sit quietly and have the DeLorean take them back 50 years. Abortion and women's rights is a kitchen table issue. Democracy and protection of democracy is a kitchen table issue. And we saw the establishment Democrats say, I don't know about these January 6th hearings. I guess we got to do it, even though it's not a kitchen table issue. I don't know about impeaching Trump. Let's slow walk it. It might be divisive. And lo and behold, when you create a sustained narrative, drip, 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 when you repeat it, what happens is in the collective consciousness, people say, oh, Trump is illegal. Oh, the president of the United States from his pulpit is calling out MAGA Republicans as a fascist threat. We have to deal with this. Every other institution now gets an opening, and if you will, they get a pass to now talk about this openly. Most modern Americans in mainstream America who live in the real America that we apparently don't occupy because we're brown people from shithole countries now say, if President Biden's talking about this, this must be a mainstream talking point. And lo and behold, if you sustain this relentless Dark Brandon energy, what I have been telling Democrats to do, my prediction is matched by the polls, Pete. You saw the latest poll. Defense of democracy is now a kitchen table issue, the number one issue, ahead of even the economy. The number two issue, ladies and gentlemen, is abortion. You have a chance for Democrats to minimize the loss in the House, maybe even retain the House. It's a stretch, but it's doable. And you have a chance for Democrats to expand their lead in the Senate. Women, according to all the polls that have come out just this week and last week, are outnumbering pro-lifers. I hate the term pro-life. They're anti-woman. They're anti-women's rights. This is a galvanizing issue because women, both, the last thing I'll say, both millennials and also that older generation who has horrific traumatic stories of friends who have died because they had to take hangers in their cervixes because they weren't able to get abortions. They're like, F this, my daughter's not going back. So this is a tsunami. Dark Brandon, if he channels that tsunami, will ride that wave, I think, to electoral victory or surprises in 2022 and in 2024.
Nayyera, anything to add or say at the end? I know you guys got to go, but this has been so fun. Anything? And Waj, say anything absurd just now?
No, I do think that's a optimistic view of what will happen electorally. And I think there is absolutely an opportunity to galvanize the vote, but our system is pretty broken when it comes to how representation happens. It gets divided, who, like the gerrymandering, who actually gets to vote. So a lot of work to be done on multiple fronts, but absolutely, with women turning out to vote, you can start seeing change.
You don't think those special elections were harbingers?
A lot of the special elections that we've had were effectively, one-on-one. When you're going up against an incumbent, people don't like Congress overall, but they'll often like their congressperson. It's much harder to defeat an incumbent. You have to prove not only what they did was bad, but that you can then be better. So that it's a more of an uphill battle. But again, I think it can be done. But it's going to be more than just this midterm, because we also have the courts that have already been packed with a bunch of young Federalists. I don't want to end on a down note. I just think that the idea of protecting our democracy and our institutions is yes, this election and ongoing vigilance and engagement for the long game.
Waj, is it true that you bought a special master Lego set yesterday?
Not yesterday, but a couple of days ago, correct. I did. And, I don't even apologize for it. My wife says you don't drink, you don't do drugs, you're a nerd. If this is what makes you happy, so be it. It's a bonding experience. And then I won over my wife because I made a typewriter, and she came home. She goes, "Did you buy a typewriter?" I said, a Lego typewriter. She goes, "This is the coolest thing I've ever seen." So nerds out there, if you make your Legos and play your video games, if your spouse is happy with it, take it as a win. And what I'll say is this. Now, for those who subscribe to Pete, if you don't subscribe to Pete, you should give him money, because now in the post show, what we're going to have is the Stand Up with Pete Dominic Hunger Games, where Nayyera and I have to fight to the death because there can only be one Pakistani.
Yeah. Never going to be the case. Although if we can do that, we probably would make a lot of money. I think we should probably talk about that offline. This is really, really fun. I'm so glad you both agreed to do it without having your representatives get involved.
Oh, yeah, that's right. My people, right, my team, sure.
I was really worried that your teams there'd be a conflict.
No, so. our teams love Pete. Our teams are fans of Pete.
We had to pull Waj from Dr. Phil's set, so... Nayyera,
I say yes to everything, just like Pete or Dr. Phil. Yes. Yes.
Thank you, guys.
I said yes to Pete because I like him.
I said yes to Pete because I need more moderate, bald white men as allies.
That's right. Yeah, to keep me there. Thank you, guys. All right, there they go. Nayyera Haq, Wajahat Ali. Follow them on Twitter. Let them know you enjoyed them together here on @StandUpWithPete. If you're not following, do it now. Thank you guys so much. I hope you like this, and I'm looking forward to sharing my conversation tomorrow with one of my favorite journalists, Celeste Headley, and longtime listener and podcast himself, the host of Talking Politics and Religion Without Killing Each Other. Corey Nathan joins me here on the podcast as well for a very interesting conversation, if I do say so myself. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much. Go give a review, 5 stars, and anything else you can do. Join our street team, standupwithpete@gmail.com, and help us select the best video clips from these interviews. We'd love to have you. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Standupwithpete.com right now. John Carroll sings us in. He sings us out. He's the man with all the clout. I'm sorry. I apologize if you're still listening and you heard my terrible, terrible rhyme. Here he goes, John Carroll. Take it away, brother. Talk to you tomorrow. Love you guys. Be the change you want to see. Stay in the moment. I'm done talking.
You got to open up the window to let in some light. You got to stand up. That's right. You got to rise up. You got to stand up. You got to stare the devil straight in the eye. We got to let him know it's his turn to go. All you hear is a lie. Don't get up off of your butt, down off of your fence. Even if it ain't a very friendly audience, well, they'll begin to listen when you start making sense. And you stand up, stand up. No need to point your rifle to defend your town. Just stand up, stand up. You know they can't deny you what you're laying down. Boy, you better stand up, stand up. Show your face of every color, yellow, black, red, and brown. She's the place where every lost child will finally be found. There's only one thing to do before we stand our ground, and that's stand up, stand up. Well, the founding fathers saw a land for all. They had to stand up, they had to stand up. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for laws, and since they weren't even sin, they knew that change was gonna come before the change could begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We gotta let him know it's his time to go, and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. Why you lying awake wondering where the money all went? It'll be the cost of freedom that'll go unspent. You can see him flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. All right, we got to speak up. pressure and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up, you got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it but now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up, show obedience to the voice inside, and listen well and it'll tell you not to run and hide. It says stand up